This is the third episode that we are having today. Before we continue, I'd like to please seek permission for this conversation to be recorded, as it will be posted on our social media platforms. It will be shared with the speaker as well before it's put on the social media platform. Yeah, thank you. So I'm Adenike Oibode, a procurement manager, and I work and live in Germany here. And IBK Ibukun has been with us. She has been helping us navigate through birth control since last week. We have her here again this week. I don't know if IBK would like to introduce herself again today. I mean, I think there are a few people that were not here last week, so it would be nice for you to just introduce yourself again. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Oluwade Yonju. I'm a nurse. I'm a wife. And I'm a mom. So nice to be here again.
Yeah, the blessed mom, the blessed nurse on Instagram. Please like, follow, share, go through her page. She's really awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
So last week we talked about the accessibility, affordability of birth control. And today we'll be talking about faith and fertility. We'll be discussing on religious. We went a little bit into it last week because I think we're really eager. I think we're really eager to know this part of it. And today we'll be talking about religious views on birth control measures. Basically discussing how different religious organizations or institutions perceive and influence birth control practices. Just to begin with, I'd like to put a question to you. I noticed that we've not talked about abortion all along, and I'd like us to just discuss. I mean, for you to, from your perspective, speak about abortion. Do you think abortion is classified as a birth control measure or not?
Okay. Well, for abortion, we have therapeutic abortion and we have criminal abortion. So permit me to say that.
Yeah.
But really, if you want to classify it under the medical, we classify abortion as therapeutic and criminal. So you're not left to decide which one you are actually going for. But of course, we have some set of people that do not have a control over it, and they have to. So I think it's just a personal decision as to if you want to go for that or your family planning. But I think these days we really do have control over all these things. So I know surprises happen. I know.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm coming from the perspective of you used the artificial birth control measures and saying it failed.
Yes.
Can one then just opt for abortion?
I'm not going to preach for that. Okay. So, but of course, individual differences, you have your reasons for considering that as a family plan, way of, escaping
controlling the birth of
the child. Like a child that you are not really prepared for and you don't want. You have your personal reason for opting for that.
Yeah.
Okay. I can say on that.
Okay, but it's somehow classifies under a birth control measure. And so not birth control in that line, because it is believed that birth control works especially for preventing the sperm and the egg from coming together. While now abortion it has already happened. There's something already going on and the life is cut short. I know it's a bit dicey, but I would assume that it is a birth control measure.
It's not really.
Okay, so now it's making me come to the question about religious beliefs then, because I believe that I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I feel like maybe religious belief is making you feel now like I would not say it is or it is not, because
honestly, like I said,
it's a personal, just a preference.
I'm not going to talk from the perspective of the fact that I'm a Christian.
Okay,
they have a large audience, I believe. Yeah. So we are just going to be factual.
Yeah.
We are not realistic in whatever it is that we're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I'm talking about the fact that abortion is not a birth control, it has happened, like I said.
Yeah.
A birth control is something that we want to prevent from happening. But this one, there's a conception already. So you're looking for a way out of what has happened.
The issue.
So that's why I'm saying that I cannot really classify it as being under, a birth control measure.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining. It would be nice to everyone who's just joining to be muted until we are allow for anyone who would like to raise for questions or contributions. Thank you so much. Yeah, I perfectly understand you. That's why I was asking the question, because I believe that some people see abortion to be a means of birth control, since everything is still inside. It's not yet out. It's not like you are holding the child and you are stabbing the child to death. So some people see it as the last measure, like the very last thing. If this doesn't work, if that doesn't work, then while some other people choose it as their own means of
Escape.
yeah, maybe not even escape now. Some people even feel like that's their own birth control method. They will not go through all the other things. They will only stick to. If maybe after counting the days and it didn't work, then we use then we use
For
birth.
how long would one consider
That's now the issue, because there's also the disadvantage of that, the health effect that comes with it. So yeah, thank you for clearing that. Now let's go to the question about the major religious institutions. Do you think that they play a role in how people perceive birth control measures, or they are just there and nobody follows whatever they say?
Well, I think religion take a significant or has a significant role to play when it has to do with this topic that we are talking about, birth control. For example, I attended a Catholic school of nursing, so I can speak for Catholics, though I am not a Catholic. Okay, and when it comes to family planning, in fact, it wasn't taught. Wow. It wasn't taught because they don't do it.
Yeah.
So everything I know that I feel that other nurses knows that had gone through these schools, such as this, they got to know it on their own, and in our quest to seek for more knowledge. In fact, I spoke about my topic last week, my topic in school. Before they could approve that,
it was war.
It was war, yes. So I think religion has a very vital role to play, and it has actually helped some people, to make decisions that they that favors them or might not also favor them.
Yeah.
So I think religion has a great role to play.
But do you then think that this views or their opinions are moral or ethical reasons? I mean,
I think it's just morals and religious beliefs. Yeah, I think it's not it might not really be associated with ethical considerations whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's just morals.
Because now I feel like in the situation where a lot of people go through this whole process and bringing a child into the world when they are not even prepared. Sometimes some are not, for lack of better ways to say it, financially stable or ready to have a child, while some religious leader can be saying, don't worry, God takes care of children, procreate, that's the essence of human nature, and then a lot of us already know that the rate of poverty in some of the countries where because it will bring me to another question about these beliefs in these different policies by religious leaders. How do you think, taking for example Africa and looking at the Western world and all of that, where in Africa they may be saying no to these birth control measures, while maybe here in the Western world they would give it a thumbs up, and you see how things are more organized. Families are better planned. Life is better planned when you are abroad, so to say, than when you are probably home, where all you just say is, your child is even 3 years old and you have not had another child. What is going on? You'd be so suffocated with a lot of advice from one person or the other and all of that. And there's a difference. Now, the rate of poverty in some of these countries is alarming because there is no plan. There's obviously no purpose. Somebody's just giving birth. And I'm not trying to say that people who have more children don't have plans, but what I'm just trying to say is that obviously there should be a balance. You should know what you want to do. You should not just say, oh, I'm just giving birth. Somebody was telling me about a woman who had 12 children, and it's a face me, I face you situation, and they were struggling to have children. I mean, to cater for these children. And you would wonder, like, is it like you don't know about family planning? You do know about family planning, but maybe you are hearing from somewhere that I don't do it too. And people who do family planning, maybe they die earlier than I'm just taking that for an example. They die earlier than the people who do family planning. All these sort of things that you hear from different places. Do you think that these people should even do better, or should we just leave it like that? People who want to give just be giving birth. They should just be giving birth, something like that.
I think
I don't know if you get what I mean.
I think we should just plan our family.
Mm.
It's just better for every one of us. Unlike, in the past where you stay in the village or our parents lived in the village, some of our parents lived in the village, and except for that there was poverty and all, but they still have they had food to eat. They could, take the children or send the children to the farm to farm for them. I think that's literally why most of them has, a good number of children, because they know that it will be very useful for them on their farms. So, but now we know better. We want a good education. We want better education for our children. We want a good life for them. We want them to attain, those things that we couldn't, even at the tender age. So we know better. We are more exposed to information. We have this information at our fingertips. So I think we know better. We should be able to plan our family better. Yeah. So that's what I'll say.
Okay, thank you. In the same religion, for example, now you mentioned Catholic, not teaching Catholic nursing school system, not teaching birth control. So it's then obviously means that there are differences in the opinion of birth control measures within the same religion.
Well, I think for Catholics, I'm very sure it's not like they do not they want natural. Like somebody mentioned last week when he was asking, about natural birth, blah blah blah, and all that birth control. So they actually strictly believe in natural birth controls, no artificial, they don't want all those environmental, blah blah blah. They just want, the natural. So that's why they teach either, all these belief methods, basal body temperature, observing all those calendar reading, and also, normal lactational method as well. Like if you are breastfeeding, believe that is a natural way of birth control. So those are
even though some people don't lose their menstrual cycle.
Yes.
I mean the period.
Yes. So that would bring us to, all these things has their own disadvantage, but of course, because of their faith and their belief, and that's what has been, going on from time immemorial. So they stick to it.
But do you think this is advisable? Can we continue to? I mean, should people continue to listen to clerics, to whatever religious leaders they have? And
well, I think it's a personal decision to make. Okay, we all have. I might not, of course, I am not a Catholic, but I have a church that I'm going to, and the church has doctrines and all. So my church doctrine might be different from yours.
So should we then should we have a different doctrine from what our church or our mosque or whatever religion, Judaism, in the Hindus or whatever? Are we supposed to go against the doctrines that are stipulated for us?
For us. That's why I'm saying that's individual differences. I know some members of Catholic Church that want to follow that path. So I think it's just their decision. But ideally, Catholic members, like core Catholic members, would not consider other permanent,
artificial methods.
So it's just individual differences. Everybody knows what for them. So we are not here to condemn anybody's religion today.
Yeah, of course. It's just necessary for us to be able to establish that what a religious leader says,
like what works, what should work.
Yeah.
Because we still have liberty to respect, individual religion. I mean, people's religion.
And it does not then mean that when we say no to these teachings or these opinions from religious leaders, it doesn't mean that we are sinners, for lack of better ways to put it. It doesn't mean that God is not happy with us. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people just dogmatically follow. Some people just dogmatically. My religious leader says no to contraceptives, so no to contraceptives because it's the image of God, something like that. So they just follow like that. Or maybe someone who comes from the traditional side, maybe they tell them that in their family line, contraceptives are not allowed. I saw a post recently on Instagram where they are still in talking stage. I think talking stage day 2, and the guy was already telling her that
isn't that so early?
Day 2, they had not even spoken on the phone, and she still chats, and he was telling her delete all the numbers of the guys on your phone, don't talk to anybody. If anybody's sliding your DM, don't post any nice pictures of yourself on, if I can remember correctly, on maybe TikTok or Instagram, I can't remember. Don't engage guys in your DM anymore. Don't worry. You don't need to use any. We're not going to use any contraceptive. If you get pregnant, you come to my house next weekend. I'll give you money. You come to my house. Then when you come, if you get pregnant, you don't need to use contraceptives. I'll help you to start counting your cycle. If you get pregnant, no problem. I will marry you. And I was like, okay. So right from the beginning, you're already stipulating to her that you are going to be in charge of going through whose body is it? Is it my body or your body? That's well, that's going to be our decision to make, the girl's decision to make. But
we wish her well.
It just amazes me that someone who is not in the woman's shoes is
making all those,
making this kind of I don't know how to even call it, projections and purpose on unnecessarily, because I was like, where are we coming from? Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we coming from? Because it just doesn't make sense. Now you're telling her not to use any, you are not going to use any contraceptive. I'm going to help you monitor your dates, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I'm wondering, like, how does this make any sense? So yeah, at the end of the day, it's everyone's decision to make. If anyone feels like they want to follow what their religious leaders choose, well, good luck. Good luck, because that's all I can say at the end of the day. But I believe that it would have been so nice for religious leaders to be informed, because at the end of the day, they have more audience than so many other institutions. And I believe that it would have been a very good platform for this kind of awareness to somehow, some way grow. You know what I mean?
Well, in the Christianity, I think it's just the Catholics that has that, reservation of artificial family planning. For other denominations, they accept it. It might not be all.
Yeah, I think for quite a number that I also checked on, researched on, they are mixed.
I'm sure that we all have this information at our fingertips, so it's just left you to decide which one you want to go for and which one you think that it's better for you and your family.
Okay. I don't know if there's anyone who has questions. Anybody with questions or would like to contribute? Okay, thank you. Bayode, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you, the speaker, for doing justice again to this topic. Yeah, the last two presentations regarding procreation and the birth control, I made reference to these tracking of natural cycle. And I believe that it still goes back to that today with respect to Catholic position on that.
Does that mean you're Catholic or you just have your belief?
Yeah, I'm Catholic. I was raised a Catholic, but okay. Yeah. But I have a question now, and the question has to do with. Hold on, I wrote it down. So because it's a very interesting one. So, do we now say that? Should we now say that people should really not put value or place any value to their religious beliefs, if with respect to birth control? If as a Catholic, I respect the doctrines, and also I feel that I've had enough. At what point should because there's a justification for that perception. So how do we reconcile the differences now? At what point should I prioritize? If I want to if I have to control, not because my wife is having any medical issues, and at what point should I make a perfect decision, and what will be an ideal decision? Because naturally, birth control was not introduced ab initio, so it is human-made. Even the people that are not still having access to technology, they still don't have birth control, and they don't procreate abysmally. So, at what point do we now leave it for nature rather than and still follow Catholic perception? Even if I'm not a Catholic, but I just choose to follow the natural.
Okay, thank you.
And and the second question: do you believe that the medical personnel should allow or refuse a prescription on birth control if based on their own personal beliefs? I mean, are you as a practitioner now, and if you are a Catholic, so to say, of course you're not. So, and someone comes to you and says, request for birth control. Do you think your opinion or your religious opinion should be prioritized in advising the person if the person does not have any medical situation that warrants that? Thank you.
Right, thank you. So I'll answer your question from the last one that you asked. For medical practitioners, we know the ideal thing. We know what we're supposed to do. Yeah. And I'll use my current place of work as an example. I work with a fertility hospital, and I'm going to use that fertility as an example. We have a couple of clients that will come in and they have their personal beliefs that, oh, I don't want to use donor egg, I don't want to use donor sperm. It could be due to their religion, it could be due to their personal beliefs and all that. And we have a couple of practitioners that treat Muslims, conk Christians, that we have our own personal opinion. I hope you understand. And then we know that, oh, the religion says this. But the fact still remains that you are in this line of work. You know what the medical ethics says about this job. In as much you are in this line of job, then you should do the ideal by your client. You should do the ideal by your client. If the client says, oh, I don't want this, then your opinion doesn't really count. It is what the client wants that you do.
But professionally, will it be safer if I refer the person to another another practitioner or another clinic or another facility that does that?
Yes, I think if your faith doesn't take it, then you can refer the person to another facility that you know that they do that. Yes.
But I don't know. I feel like when you accept the responsibility of doing such practicing in such field, you should never let that get into the picture.
So, like I keep saying, it's individual differences.
Yeah.
So you know what your faith believes. I have a Muslim doctor, a Muslim doctor that he knows that his faith doesn't. But when it comes to this job, he knows what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Even if he has his fellow Muslim brethren come into the clinic to seek for fertility assistance, and they know that, oh, they're not supposed to do this, but you want a child. We are not saying you should compromise on your faith whatsoever, but this is medicine. If such individual wants to or has come thus far to seek for assisted reproductive technology, then they are open to those opinions. So it's not left to you to say, oh, I want to stay there, I want to stay here or not. Or it's not left to that doctor to say, oh, because I don't offer this particular services, then maybe I should send you to another facility. So like I keep saying, it's individual differences. Fine, we know that the religion has a role to take, but it's now left to you to make a decision as to what works for you, what you feel that if you make that decision, you're not going to regret later, or you're not going to have that guilty conscience much later. So, and then the first question, can you remind
Yes. At what point do I need to prioritize my faith and or the medical expertise over the decision with respect to decision making there?
Okay, so I think when it has to do with health issues, maybe for one reason or the other, your medical practitioner is saying, oh, you might have to consider this. Then you should be able to sit yourself down, or probably with your spouse, so have a discussion as to, oh, what do we think we should do that will be best for us. So if it doesn't have to do with health, then maybe your religion should take a priority in that decision making. That's the way I'm going to answer that.
Thank you for doing that. Please permit me to ask this based on this perception that if we historically, if you trace the Catholic as a religion, so it originates from the Western society, and many of their practitioners to date still are fervent in the Western societies, but they still don't have more kids. So we can just assume that if they are conk practitioners, they might likely not subscribe to birth control. So probably a natural phenomenon or natural cycle tracking. So how are they able to do that with few kids and still practice their faith if they are not practicing birth control, or if they don't believe in birth control? So probably, in my opinion, they actually follow the cycling tracking, and they are more accountable in terms of how they monitor these things than just saying that, oh, it cannot be naturally tracked. What do you think about that?
Or they could also...
Okay.
So I just wanted to also add one more option. Or they could also be practicing these birth control methods and not letting us know. Just my thought.
That would be for real Catholics. We are not saying just practitioners, but the devoted ones. It's going to be difficult to assume that position, hypothetically. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'll appreciate if she can just ask.
Well, I think we have several options to pick for the natural birth control. Like I said earlier, we have calendar or reading method, we have cervical mucus, which we call the Billings method, we have the basal body temperature, we have the cytothermal method, and we have the lactational amenorrhea method. So we have like 5 or more, methods to actually consider. So if one doesn't work, they have options of, switching to the other. So I think that's basically the way if they are really sticking to this natural, birth control method, then there are other options. I mean, there are many options.
Will it be safer to assume that it be more responsible as individuals, or both for couples or females? It's more reasonable to say.
I didn't get that.
Be more accountable, be more responsible to how we track our cycle, or better planning will be. It's safer to say that.
I think it's planning, and since they know that this is what they want to stick with, then they are more responsible. They are more intentional. Yeah, that's the word. They are more intentional. They won't just forget that, oh, I'm doing this. So they have to be more intentional, because if their mind sways away from all these things, then there's going to be a mishap.
Okay, yeah. Will it be safe to say that we are now transferring our own responsibility to inventions, rather than we being responsible as individuals, as natural beings, to own up to the results of how things should be done? Because animals, we are humans, but we still belong to animal kingdom. We can't, but different phyla. So animals don't have birth control measures, but they still manage to have their kids in a way that is still reasonable. So, and we as higher animals, so we have some statutory natural responsibilities. So, if
let me think from the perspective of the fact that the people that brought Christianity are the ones that brought these methods. They brought health services, to us. And if God will not allow us to have other options to pick from, then He wouldn't have given them that, that idea, that ideology to have other options or those other methods of family planning. It won't even exist. We will just still be stuck with the natural way of family planning. So I want to believe that God has allowed it.
Interesting, thank you. But yeah, interesting. I wouldn't want to take the space for other questions, but just sharing thoughts and thinking out loud. Would you say that okay, the history of family birth control somewhat originated from starvation? So when there was hunger, so birth control is like a way to manage what is on ground in terms of products, foods, shelter, and etc. So then came about the argument about medical issues and all of that. So if we at what point do we now value nature as a way to regulate things for us?
I think we should just trust our instincts. Okay? So if our instinct is saying, oh, let's just leave it to the natural way to do this, then that's what you are going to do. But if otherwise, then you consider the other options. So just trust your instincts.
Thank you for your detailed explanation.
Thank you.
I see that Oluwayinka, your hand has been up for quite some time now. Sorry. Yeah, we can have your question or your contribution now.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I have a few questions written down here. So maybe I will take them one after the other. After I've gotten answers, then I'll move on to the next question. So my first question is that I would like to ask our sister that does she think that what we consume these days or in this generation or season might actually be affecting the natural, so to say, way of birth control, like counting our cycle and all that, because like we've all been discussing since that in those days, like they count their cycle and it was working for them. Like so I would like to know if the diets that we are taking these days might have been affecting the natural way and making it not to be working like before, resulting and thereby resulting to other methods of birth control. So I will go first with that.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. I honestly think that our diet has a great role to play in this, because studies have shown that lately, in fact, the population of women, let me say women now, that has hormonal changes that now eventually leads to maybe amenorrhea, dysmenorrhea, a lot of menstrual irregularities. Let me just put it like that. Diet has a great role to play. So if we are not feeding well, we are not taking, good diets, balanced diets, it might affect our weight. And then these days we are taking a lot of drugs. Yes, a lot of us, probably because we are busy, we just want to look for a quick way to feeding ourselves, feeding our family, and it has really affected us. So I would say yes, diet has a great role in this.
Okay, thank you. Just more clarification. A lot of people a lot of women have really been trying to work on their diets to eat healthy, but like you mentioned, we still have a lot battling with hormonal imbalance. Do we think the agricultural sector, probably with the fertilizers they are using, the mode of agriculture these days, processed foods in general, maybe the government might look more into that, unlike the olden days that even they are not eating balanced diet, but so to say, they are more of eating more natural things, food, unprocessed food and the like. So yeah.
I think the government has a role to play, but even we ourselves, we have greater roles to play in the sense that we still have some food items that we can be intentional to purchase.
It's just weekly shows meeting.
Sorry.
I'm trying to raise my hand in Zoom, but I cannot raise my hand.
Okay, Ruki, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. So, hello. I hope you were able to pick what I said earlier. Hello.
Yes, I did.
Oh, all right, thank you. So I was saying that the federal government, the government, has a great role to play, but we ourselves, we have to be intentional about those things that we eat, despite the fact that we know that those natural things that they probably use to plant what we eat now, they are very, reduced in quality and quantity, but there are still some food items that we have to be intentional, about feeding on. There are some that we know that, this we should do away with. So yes, if the government has a role to play, we ourselves has a greater role to play in selecting those good, not good now, those intentional meal that we know that they're going to be beneficial to us.
Thank you. So my next question would be, regarding the faith aspect and contraceptives. Do you think that so it's actually linked to my first question, like natural birth control was really working then for our mothers, and do you actually prompted the religious leaders to support that? Do you think that the religious leaders should actually look more into those rules and maybe regulations regarding birth control, regarding the statistics that are out there these days, that we're having more failed natural birth controls? Do you think they need to be more enlightened and adjust those rules? Like in respect to the present day and the generation that is happening out there now, and no more based on what was happening back then, that it was really working?
Truthfully, I think religious leaders might not really have a say anymore because our eyes are now open. So let me just put it that way. Our eyes are more open, even if they are trying as much as possible, to say, this is the best thing. But we have several options to consider or to pick from. So people would say, I've heard. Pastor said that our imam has said this. Now maybe when I go home, I know one works for me now. And then, like I rightfully said earlier, my host, you said earlier that could it be that some people are doing it and then they're not coming out to say, this is what I'm doing. Yes. So that's what is going to happen. So if the religious leaders now say, compulsorily, or maybe they are going to pass a kind of course, they can't pass a law, but they are going to say, maybe a rule to say, don't do this, don't do this. People say, okay, we've heard you now. Then they will go to their houses, they go to their physicians and get, other services done. So I don't think the religious leaders really, as they say, apart from those ones that is known to, that we all know, that has been what they've been,
preaching for a long
doing
time.
from time immemorial. Yes, for a very long time. So their church members, their members know that this is what the church stands for. Now,
lay down or rules or opinions regarding such topics was because of the happenings back then. Do we think they needed more realistic statistics as to what is really happening in this generation?
I'm sure the truth is, I'm sure they know what's happening in this generation. But of course, I think a law is a law, and that's what they are sticking with. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So my next question, yeah, as a medical person, and especially, I would say in the most of the third world countries, the spouse or the male have a lot of say regarding decisions when it comes to their wives, and especially when it comes to birth control. Do you actually think it is fair on the women's part for their spouse to have a say regarding their choice of birth control, or even their choice in using control at all?
So I think that a woman should be left to make a decision as to which of the birth control she would want to or like to opt for. A man shouldn't, permit me, men on this platform shouldn't compel his wife that you have to do this.
Except he wants to do the vasectomy.
If they are both open, yeah, they should have a conversation, they should sit down, dialogue, and then make a decision. Let her, voice her opinion. And then I'm sure she will make the best decision.
Okay. So that will bring me to my last question for now. Do you think we need to put out more awareness regarding that there is also a way, like the host mentioned, vasectomy, that men can also like have birth control? Because uh just this previous week, I happened to be discussing with a like group of married men, like 6, and I was shocked with their knowledge regarding vasectomy. Every one of them thought they are going to cut off their private part or take something away, and they are all learned, and that was all they are thinking. They failed to read about it or make any research regarding it. Do you think there should be more awareness out there regarding this? And do you think women should be lifted off the burden of birth control when men can actually do it, considering the fact that we have a lot going on in our body, already?
I guess you missed last week's session, man.
Yes, I did.
You need to, catch the replay on YouTube, because we talked exclusively on this. And men, it's because the information, maybe I just want to assume that the information is not so adequate. The vasectomy is reversible. Once done, it can be reversible, and nobody's going to cut off their private parts. It's just a procedure done, to sever what conveys the sperm.
The information.
So the information is not so much, or maybe they are not, looking at or maybe seeking the right knowledge to know how the procedure is being done. Because even if you get it done, you can reverse it. And we spoke exclusively on this last week. So please, our men should actually get more education. And that is why, and I said that at the end of last week session that we'll keep educating. We'll keep educating them. God will help us.
Amen. Amen.
Thank
so
you.
That the body will be lifted off, the women.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I have a question. I've been listening, but like I used to say,
we listen, we don't judge.
Exactly. So I'm gonna ask I'm gonna ask the speaker.
My hand has been up since last week.
Sorry, sir. So again,
man to man,
we're talking about religious and the parameters around it, right? And I've heard you spoke about the Catholics, you spoke about the Jehovah Witness, right? Do you know we have all these Orthodox churches as well that believes that everything has to be the doctrine as to what we've known from the days of our grandparents, correct? And now, I'm just gonna play a scenario here now. So this couple, it's a pastor, right? Pastor and the wife, they've been praying, seeking the face of God, they've been doing everything, going to the mountain, XYZ. And apparently they now traveled for some holiday. The church sends them on vacation, saying, "No, man of God, you've been doing well, blah, blah, blah. Please go to the UK for a 3-week vacation, everything fully paid, medical checkups and the rest," right? And they got to know that that the fertility is the problem from the man himself, right? And the advice from the doctor is that he should do AI. Sorry, I'm a dog breeder, so if I say AI, it means, I mean, what's it called in human terms?
IVF?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And the pastor is saying no over his dead body, and the wife is saying, "Sir, after this, the church will be gone. We'll be left with nothing, right?" And the woman tried to convince the pastor, right? And they did it, and they had a set of, I mean, twin. Now tell me, how do you think the testimony will be in the church? Or how would they convince members that it was the Lord's doing with the doctrine that they preach? I'm just thinking. It's just a
Is-
scenario. Just
Do
a
you do
scenario,
you
man.
do you do you agree with me that it's actually the Lord's doing? Or will you agree with me that it's actually the Lord's doing?
It's science.
But the Lord permitted it.
It's science because I will tell the pastor that you have done something against what you tell me.
But you were not there, sir.
But I'm saying the
But
pastor now
you
owns the
heard the
testimony.
information. If they did not tell you, we don't know.
It's just
Now
a scenario, right?
I'm going to come from the perspective of
Let's
we
assume
have
that the pastor is being faithful enough to say,
okay.
guys,
Okay.
this is not part of the doctrine, but this is what we did. And
What is
God has blessed us with this.
okay,
Right?
I want to believe that in this part of the world, in our own, thank God most of us are blacks and all. We want to, we are open to all these options. We are open to, IVF, IUI, every other assisted reproductive technology. And when you seek such services or such service, I want to believe that even if you don't tell, many people, you must have told somebody that, oh, this is what I'm going for. This is what I am, this is what I am doing. Now, when it comes to the church, the truth is, because of, like you have rightfully said, because of the hello? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, thank you. So because of the church belief, if their church doesn't accept IVF, they won't do it. That's the truth. They won't do it. I have a lot of couple that comes to my IVF fertility where I work that comes for inquiries, and they'll say, "Oh, is this how it is done?" Ah, no, we don't do this in our church. They leave. But in fact, I'm not going to mention this denomination. There's a particular denomination that we have the oldest IVF mom from, and people are shocked that really you could seek such services or such service. So if you know that your denomination or your the Church of Christ, that you are the Church of God, or let me just put that like that you are attending, they do not support it, then don't do it, because there is no I'm looking for the right word now. There's no way the word will not come out. Even if you don't say it, the person that you have entrusted the information, to, will leak it out to another person, and the word will start spreading. Oh, they did IVF. They went for IVF. They did IUI. They went for IUI. So why not just go and open up and say, praise the Lord, though. We did IVF.
This is the way God did it.
Yes, this is be truthful. That's the truth. Be truthful. God, like I said earlier on, God actually did it. He has permitted science. He has given, science. He has given people, the knowledge to seek this, this pathway to having children. So, and there are people, several, in fact, hundreds of people that are seeking the services, and it's not working for. Like somebody has rightfully written here that says all good things comes from God.
Yeah.
Yes, some people are doing IVF and it's not working for them. So God has permitted this. That's why they have the babies to show for it. I hope that answers your question, your doubt. If you have more questions, please ask.
Problem.
I have a
Okay,
real life situation question, but I'll wait for the next person to ask so that I can then jump on it.
All right. Dio, I think we can have you now.
Hello, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. I think I overheard, or rather, my attention was drawn to the area where we came to the conflagration of science and medicine. And my brother, I think, Brother Bayode, I think, he was asking questions regarding natural setup and, things being done naturally and the role that science or all these measures, birth control and family planning comes into it, as well as something that, brings everything together. Or let me put it this way. Let's take it somewhat from the top. As humans, there was a time when all of these things existed. I mean, no medicine, science, all of that didn't really exist in this direction of healthcare. And one day, as the sister in the comments put, that every perfect and good thing comes from God. God gave us the brains and gave us the ability to think and to invent. And therefore, a British man, if I recall, Alexander Fleming, invented penicillin. And penicillin was the first antibiotic that started saving a lot of lives. Back in the day, even in Nigeria, Africa, during the Oil Empire and the likes and so on and so forth, where they used to fight with, sharp objects, arrows, bows, and all that. It's not the bows and arrows that used to kill the opposing warriors. It's the infection that results from being shot with a bow and arrow. That's why they tend to be taken back to their camps. And then over the course of 2-3 days, or they say the king is sick, he has a cut, an injury, and they die from this thing after some days or weeks. It's not the slash that kills them. It's the fact that their protection, the natural protection, which is your skin that you have, has been cut through, and infection has gone in. And then this thing, over the course of time, without use of antibiotics, because they're the only thing that can prevent or destroy bacteria, people get sick and they die. Now, this wonderful man invented antibiotics. Since then, what happened? People stopped dying from simple bacterial infections. Eventually, again, the other guys, Robert Koch and so on and so forth, they started isolating stuff, doing stuff, and helping us to advance in protecting us so we live longer. This ability to live longer was, first of all, the first step where we as human beings took to interfere with natural selection. We were naturally not selected to live so long. That is why the population prior to the invention or the modernization of medicine had a reduced amount of population on the planet Earth, because people were dying faster. Unlike now, I mean, remove Bible era where, the stories involve people living 900 or whatever years. So now in this case, medicine and health has already prolonged our lives due to interference against nature.
Yeah.
Now, we are now reversing that process again because we ended up at some point consuming too much than we had on planet, that now almost all the fruits you have in your house or in the stores are not natural, if we want to go in that line of natural. The banana is not an actual existing fruit. It's a combination of fruits. Just the only advantage why we got to this point is that they have combined fruits for the fruits that will be produced faster. It's part of the reason why you're eating broiler chicken. They grow faster and they die faster so that they can be eaten faster. If everybody was sitting and waiting for layers, we probably might not get chicken to eat. So all these interferences we've made with nature has made us, given us the ability to live longer. Now, these same advances we've made has brought us back to the point to realize that, okay, when people decide that 1-2 children are enough for me, then we should take measures to stop unnecessarily procreating where it's not needed. Take, for instance, the parts of the world where this topic of I want to have as much children as I like, or have a football team as for children as I like, comes from the countries where the only sort of consolation they have to themselves is sex. In the advanced and developed world, people spend more time wanting to have maybe that 1-2 and giving them the best they can. You go to Nigeria, go to the north and some other parts of the southwest, you see that people just have children and just hope that one of them will be their lotto. It is not how it should be, but it is what it is. It worked back in the day when the population was lower, but now that the population in China resources are lower, it doesn't work. And the learned people want to still enjoy because sex is a wonderful part of marriage. And a lot of people still want to, even though they've had their 1 or 2 children, still want to be able to live happily and live normally without the worries of something disrupting the life they plan for themselves. By the end of the day, we can't put it on that nature or no nature. No, we've interfered with nature from the point where we decided that anytime we are sick, we don't just want to fall sick and die from the sickness.
Yeah.
The moment you stand up from your house and say, I'm sick and I'm going to the hospital, you've interfered with nature. Nature demands that you stay in your bed and hope for the best. If you survive it, you survive it. If you die, then it is nature. On the other hand, when we talk about faith and church and the likes of somebody saying whether the pastor or the mother in the church or the deaconess or whatever did IVF, as long as that person has used ampicillin or whatever, the person too has done something wrong. Because if the person doesn't want to interfere with nature, on the other hand, as well, the person should have stayed in his or her room and prayed to God. I do not know any living person in Nigeria, because let's use our own prevalent sickness in sub-Saharan Africa, which is malaria, as a typical example. I would say every one of us here who has lived in Nigeria has at some point had malaria, because mosquito is what is prevalent there. And as long as you've popped an anti-malaria tablet in your mouth or received chloroquine injection or any sort of anti-malaria injection, then you would know that you've interfered with nature. You are not much different from the person who went for an IVF, because you've taken something away from nature. So let us please take away this I'll really, for lack of better word, I'll really say it as what's that word one uses again? I've forgotten the word, but self, not holier than thou, but this being, let's take away from us not being fake in that way. Let's not deceive ourselves and want to play the game of
face reality.
Oh no. Yeah, let's face reality and not deceive ourselves and not be fake and say, oh no, I'll leave this to nature. When it pays me, I leave it to nature. But when it doesn't pay me, I won't leave it to nature. Because none of us here would have our child sick and the first thing we think of is going to the doctor. The child will use ibuprofen to drop fever. The moment we do that, we're tampering with nature. If we don't tamper with nature, then we should put clot in warm water and put it on the child's forehead and pray to God. And if the fever doesn't break in 3 days, then if the child goes, it's the will of God. But nobody here would do that. So the point is that we've tampered with nature from the beginning, but I won't even call it tampering. As the sister in the comment said, every good thing is a perfect gift from God, because God has given us the brains to advance. Obviously, some people use their brains to advance negatively, but we've advanced positively to protect mankind, to further us, to keep us from all these diseases. That's why we get vaccines from birth, to keep us healthy and safe. And that's what has kept us long to this point. And that is what we need, this continuous advancement, to keep us going on and on. And everything we're able to get, be it blood. Some people donate blood to help other people who had an accident. Someone has an accident, you've donated blood, you're helping the person. At some point back in the day, if someone has an accident and is on the floor, he's dead. There's nothing anybody can do. Now, science has even gone past the point whereby even a donated blood, we can separate it into the 3 components of blood. That whoever needs red blood cells receives that, whoever needs white receives that, whoever needs blood platelets receives that, that it even goes around better. So all these things is something we should appreciate from this brain God has given us, that we're not even able to use. We're not even using 10% of our brain, because 90% we're wasting. And this 10% that we're still using, we're using it wonderfully to advance ourselves, advance mankind. And we should continue to be grateful to God for what he has given us, rather than nitpicking on which one pays me, which one does not. If he pays me, I'll say I'm not tampering with nature. But if it doesn't pay me, I say they're tampering with nature. Let's try to, do better and know better. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Much. I just want to say that the angle which you, Mr. I didn't get the name. Just
Dayo.
Dayo. Yes, thank you. It's coming from, I think where all this is coming from is the angle of faith.
Yeah.
That's why that was how we got him from your church or Catholic or this or this or this or this. And he has really, taken time to explain how we got here, how we have a more advanced healthcare, and how we are getting, we still can't underrate the angle of coming from the faith-based belief of people. Okay, if a Catholic do this, so he has really taken time to explain to us. Yes, but of course, we still have a lot of people that still doesn't consider any of all this. They still want to stick with their natural, so we still can't condemn them, because we know that, for this you have to do this. For A, you have to consider this option. For B, you have to consider this option. For C, you have to consider this option. So we still can't forget the fact that you have your personal beliefs and you have your religion. For Muslims too, because the time we've been talking, we've not talked about the Muslim beliefs about this and all. They have their own beliefs as well when it has to do with this. In fact, they don't want they accept the other parts, but they don't want the permanent sterilization. They don't want it. So that's their belief. They don't want it. They still do pills. They still do this. They do that, but they don't want the permanent sterilization. So we can't condemn them and say, because they are Muslims. No, but the reality of things now is that technology is advanced. We have options to pick from. So whatever belief that you have, you still have the tendency to say, I want to consider this, or I don't want to consider this.
It's nobody's choice to make for us. Yeah, thank you. We have really run out of time. Like Dayo was mentioning, I remember that the first speaker that we had, so Mrs. Okweodu, the microbiologist, was also responding to a question about leaving the body in the birth control, where she was explaining that if everybody wants to be sincere, if we want to like be sincere with ourselves, saying to go through the natural measure also should feel like when you are sick, you should just wait it out. You have flu, wait it out. You don't need to use any medicines. Just stay in bed, and because a lot of us then don't do that. We choose to quickly use paracetamol when we have headaches instead of sleeping or trying to rest. And then when you wait for some time, it doesn't get better, then you can actually go to the hospital or something. People choose to quickly go through the fastest means to get I feel cold. Look for something to use. I have cold, I have catarrh. You pick something and then you use it. We don't leave our bodies to work in the natural way when it comes to these other ways. So why do we then feel like we should promote birth controls in the natural way? Just to wrap up, I think Ruki's hand is up. It will be the last question for tonight. I think we would have a more broader session next week where everybody with questions and would like answers to, we can take more of that next week. Ruki, let's have you and then we'll wrap up.
Thank you, Darren. I just wanted to mention that I don't know if this is a question or a contribution or both.
All good.
But I think that sometimes when we talk about religion, we forget that even the people preaching or our clerics, pastor, imam, or whatever, the word of God in itself is not clear-cut as it is written in the Bible or the Quran, right? It's more metamorphorical. So there is deeper insight as to what should or shouldn't be. I remember somebody earlier mentioned that the animals don't have birth controls, but they give birth within like they give reasonable spacing. But that's because that's how God has conditioned them to be. And because we are higher animals, I believe that's why God has given us the ability to have all these birth controls. If we're talking about, before the coming of birth controls, our forefathers' generation, they used natural methods and it worked. But the question is, are we really sure it worked? Because you see somebody having 23 kids.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that mean that it didn't really work? So if we're going to be saying we're listening to clerics, I think like the Christians say, wisdom is profitable to none. There are instances where you have to, use your head, especially as a woman. Because if you say you want to use, like my second child was not planned. My husband is a doctor. He was like, go and use. I said, no, I don't want to use birth control. Okay. Bam, I have second child. So what are we saying? Are we going to say I didn't count my cycle? I did. Are we going to say, he ignored body temperature, blah, blah, blah? We did. But then I don't think the calendar method is really 100%. And I don't think that God will place a burden on somebody in the name of, don't use birth control. And again, like somebody said, we should stop being two-faced in the fact that we choose when to follow the word of God and when not to follow the word of God. So God has given scientists the wisdom to come up with this stuff. And if we're going to be using paracetamol to solve our headache, then I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't use birth control. That's my own take.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Roki. I know someone who always says that science itself is a miracle. So anyone who feels like science is not a miracle, I don't know. I don't know what perspective they're coming from.
I'm going to speak from the angle which even with the science is still not 100%. And that is why even if you go for IVF, nobody will tell you that IVF is 100%.
It's sure.
So though God has given us that idea, that inspiration, to do this and do that. That's why even birth control is not 100%. But you have several options to pick from, and then you can study, their percentage, the success rates.
Yeah.
For you to make a decision. Some are next to 100, even if they are not 100%. Yeah. Some are like 99, percent successful. So if you have all those, then we are not condemning the natural way, but you can, go for any of those and it will work for you, at least to an extent. Though we have a lot of people doing even the 99% ones and then it fails. And then you start asking yourself, how did I get here?
Yeah.
You know, and I did what I'm supposed to do. I took the pills, I did this, I did that. So just do what works for you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, IBK. It's been really great having you. Like I said, next week we would have an open floor with anyone who has questions, who has contributions, whatever it is that's on your mind about birth control. We would have next week to wrap it all up, and then we move to another interesting topic. So yeah, I'll see you all next week. Thank you all so much for joining in. I'd like to draw the curtains here. Thank you, IBK. As already mentioned, we'll have the recording on our YouTube channel on Monday by 6 p.m. Everyone who is on the chat today, on the call today, would probably get a link to the YouTube upload on Monday. Thank you so much, and see you all next week.